Hey there, I'm Jen Rice, and I wanted to pop in here this evening and answer a question that Kate had on my video late last week. And basically we were talking about symptoms that people have around whether some call it adrenal fatigue, other people call it adrenal problems. It's interesting, before I hop into exactly what Kate's question was, it was actually around supplements for basically increasing the ability of the adrenal glands to handle stress better, right? It was mainly her question. But I got a great message from a friend of mine who is a PA, and she works in medicine, of course, and knows a lot more than I do about the Endocrine Society. And basically she was telling me that adrenal fatigue is not a real diagnosis, in that a lot of people in mainstream medicine do not recognize it as a diagnosis because they feel like it's basically a constellation of symptoms that causes that a name has been placed on it without it really being a quote-unquote actual condition. I guess it depends on who you talk with, right? And it depends on really what kind of medicine you're looking to follow, or if you're looking to follow somewhere in between, which is definitely where I don't want anything to not be factual. But I also don't want to minimize the fact that a lot of functional medicine physicians that were, trained physicians in other fields of medicine before they switched over to functional medicine began talking about these things. So I found her message to be really a good one, in that maybe we'll just refer to these as adrenal problems. So we'll kind of go under that umbrella of adrenal problems, and we won't necessarily call it adrenal fatigue versus, other things. So any information you see, obviously, on here or from anyone else, it's certainly my opinion, but I do a lot of research, and as a medical provider myself, and someone who has done a lot of Western medicine, and that's what I was trained in, and now has begun to step into more of this functional medicine, Eastern medicine. It's a journey for me, which I'm sharing with you. So basically we were talking about cortisol, and the adrenal gland is where we respond to stress. So what you might feel is, let's say, anxious, or you might have trouble sleeping, or craving salt or craving sugars, and also dizziness. That can be signs that you're suffering from some chronic stress, and basically your adrenal glands are getting a little bit beat up because they just keep secreting cortisol, like, okay, here we go again, and you have these waves into the bloodstream, which can cause some imbalance. So, I'm reading a lot from Dr. Mark Hyman, and if you aren't familiar with him, he's got a lot of he's got books out there, Eating Fat to Get Thin. He's done a lot of different types of documentaries. He was a traditional Western medicine doctor, and he suffered a mercury poisoning in which, he didn't really know why his symptoms, what they were coming from, and he found out it was mercury exposure, and he began to obviously dive into this sort of functional world. My story's similar. Lots and lots of heartburn, medicine that caused an allergic reaction to the ER, to this and that, and I've shared that with you guys before. So a lot of us from Western medicine begin to look at these other types of therapies and other ways of thinking about medicine, and almost in an open-minded fashion, because we've walked in those steps, right? Okay, so he does something called saliva testing. So if you're someone that's kind of like, I wonder if I'm suffering from some kind of adrenal problem. Well, if you feel like you have been under a lot of chronic stress over time, and you're feeling some of those symptoms I mentioned before. Now, obviously, some of us are going to crave salt and sugar from time to time, but we're talking like excessive cravings. The saliva test is something that he does in his practices. You would want to find a functional medicine provider if you're interested in doing that. And basically, in adrenal burnout, the cortisol drops and you just don't respond to stress like you once did, right? So they do this saliva testing. Now, if we want to talk about healing the adrenals, and this takes me back to Kate's question, which last time I went live, she said, Jen, what supplements do you take for adrenal problems, is what we're calling them now. So adrenal problems whatsoever. So we're not going to label it maybe adrenal fatigue, and we're not going to not call it adrenal fatigue. We'll just say adrenal problems. So I went looking and digging for her because I had no idea what supplements people would recommend. Well, Dr. Hyman recommends several actually, and they're not under his label only, and so there's no skin in the game for him with that. But vitamin C, zinc, B5, and Siberian ginseng. I don't know, you guys. I'm just reading you what's on here. I'm sure that it's something that can be found, and something called cortisol manager supplement. So I'll pop these down in the comments section because that's exactly what Kate was asking about. She can also dig more into those. There's different milligrams with it that he recommends to his patients, and these outwardly recommended on his his blogs and such. But he says if you try this supplementation, you're not feeling better, obviously you should go see a physician and, see if there's more that should be tested. But I want to go back to, besides the supplement part, because I know we love to take a pill to get rid of stuff. Like, I get it. I get it. I was that person. But I will tell you that before we even go to maybe the extra supplementation and all of this, let's think about things that we can do to heal the adrenals, like without really buying anything. So we can eat anti-inflammatory foods, which in the last video I talked a lot about that. So just to reiterate, salmon, dark leafy vegetables, orange, sweet potatoes, nuts. But I didn't mention turmeric, ginger, or rosemary. And a lot of functional medicine providers talk a lot about incorporating those three into your diet pretty much daily. So turmeric, ginger, and rosemary. And again, those are found in those drinks I was showing from time to time that I've been picking up, because I like to be able to get things from multiple sources and not just, have a million different things to have to mix together. If it's all in one bottle, like, that's great too, right? So second thing, which would be very helpful to help heal your adrenals, is a hot bath. Like, this is so 1900s, 1850, I don't even know, right? A hot bath with Epsom salt. And it's so funny because this is such an older thing, but it really does work. So hot bath, Epsom salt, but then if some of my essential oils friends out there, you guys can definitely chime in on this a little bit more, but I've been doing some reading about lavender, and lavender having something to do with lowering cortisol. So I do like the smell of lavender. I don't know if there's any benefit to doing lavender and not doing Epsom salt, or doing it together. Either way. But those are two options. So lavender in the tub, oil, okay, not like some processed scented lavender thing, or Epsom salt. And then the third thing, which we touched on last time, was deep breathing, which I told you my friend Don is coming out with his meditation of deep breathing. But you can follow any sort of deep breathing app. There's a few different ones out there. I think his is going to be really awesome to share. But deep breathing and massage. I went to get my massage yesterday. It had been a little while. I can see where there could be healing for the adrenals, and of course the lack of stress response for us to use these modalities like massage, maybe even acupuncture, all of that. So before we go back to the supplements, Kate, I just want to say that these three things are something that we can do without buying anything, right? Well, of course you got to buy a massage, baby. Sorry. But I do think that the supplements are, I'll put the milligrams below, and if that's helpful to you, that's great. And like I said, I've been doing a lot of digging into this myself, and not all of us that started into, reading more about this, it's not where we started. I have landed here, and I'm not afraid to share the things that I'm learning in hopes that it helps someone else. So I do have if you are suffering from chronic stress and you feel like your adrenals could be getting pushed a little bit to the max, I hope this video helps you. I hope that the tips that I provide in there are something that you might feel are worth sharing also. And like I said, the supplements are something that you can pretty much find all around, but who doesn't have a hot bath, right? And we all go to the store, so making a little bit better choices there is really where it's at. And I sound a little bit like a broken record with that, but food has really healed me in changing. So I hope that you would feel the same if you began to do that. So I do have 9 steps to go from medical professional burnout, which was me, to fulfillment on Jenn Rice International. So that's www.jennriceinternational.com. If you are in healthcare and you are feeling pushed to the max like a lot of us do, I think these steps can help you. Some of the things I have mentioned on today's video, but there are, like I say, 9 steps total. So if you would find value in that, please go over there and check it out. And I hope you guys have a great, great evening, and I will pop those supplements below. And thanks, Kate, for asking. I think it's going to be really helpful for a lot of people.